Here now with Tanner Wilburn. He is the Food and Beverage Commercial and Technical Manager for TOMCO2 Systems. First question for you, Tanner, is why should a beverage manufacturer be concerned about the clarity or the purity of their CO2 that's going into the beverages?
Yeah, so good question. So with CO2, I mean, it's overlooked sometime, but is a key ingredient to everybody. I know it's just one-off, but I mean, you can't have a carbonated drink without CO2. And sometimes you can't freeze or do something with food without CO2. So with that being said, it's key to make sure, we focus on CO2 purity, CO2 contaminations and events that happen, so that we can be prepared, and then of course it doesn't affect anything with their regular production.
What are some of the products that TOMCO offers that can help beverage manufacturer kind of monitor and control those the purity of the CO2?
Yeah, so I mean, we do a lot of the installs like unisensor systems and stuff like that, but from our actual portfolio, it would be kind of our CarboGuard, which is our incident protection system that we supply to most beverage plants in the U.S. So basically, ISPT sets a limit of CO2 contaminations, and so our filters actually will protect up to a certain extent of contamination past the ISPT limits. So if you were to get a contaminated product, you would be able to filter out those contaminants and those added things that come in.
CO2 is obviously a hot item as far as the shortage goes. What are some of the products that TOMCO offers that can help a beverage manufacturer kind of control the supply chain issues and be ready for them? Yeah,
so I mean, and kind of our main thing lately is ensure supply and ensure purity. So with those two things, we've kind of gone, and it's really getting to where we see the market's going to potentially shift to where you're getting your CO2 from isn't going to be where you're getting your CO2 from tomorrow. And so with that, we're just trying to get customers to look into the future and say, hey, can we produce our own CO2, or can we recover our own CO2? And have them be the source, because of course with 45Q and everything like that, I mean, we're not sure where the CO2 supply is going. So it basically boils down to, yes, you can increase storage capacity so you are more prepared for shortage events, but also look into the future and, hey, can we recover, make our own CO2 and use it? Or are there different alternatives or somebody they can partner with to get a different CO2 source and kind of control that by themselves? Because like I said, it's a main ingredient for them. So if you can't give them CO2, then they can't produce anything. So CO2 storage is another thing. Of course, increasing the capacity. Of course, TOMCO supplies CO2 tanks from 6 tons to 120 tons. So a good thing to do also is just look at your supply and maybe have a 3-day contingency plan, 5 days of storage on site, to where when there is a shortage or things like that occur, then you have a little more flexibility and time to kind of think them out, come up with some options to get a different supply. So that is definitely a key thing to look at. So CO2 storage as well.
Related to CO2 storage, is there a certain metric, or how would a beverage manufacturer kind of measure how many of these CO2 storage tanks would be necessary for them to stay operational or to have on hand in order to ensure the right supply?
Yeah, so basically everybody kind of sets their own standard as well. We recommend at least 3 to 5 days of storage capacity, and that's kind of breaking it down on their hourly usage of CO2. So looking at that, we always recommend 3 to 5 days, but hopefully, we can kind of expand that a little more. So that's why usually we'll put a couple tanks in parallel or some items like that, just to kind of give a little more wiggle room, when an event does happen. From the TOMCO aspect, I mean, it's basically from tank to filler. So of course we'll have our storage tanks there. You can get whatever gas supplier you want to fill that. And then of course through our vaporization, and then of course through our filter, which is kind of the last piece of the puzzle before we actually go to the fillers with CO2 vapor for carbonation. So with that, of course, you can pick up contaminations anywhere along that system. So that's kind of, our last and final piece, and then on to the fillers, and then on to your final beverage.